Hey everybody, welcome back to Marsh RC. Today we are at White Hobbies and we are going to get into this Scout and check out all of our portal axles, check out the transfer case, the transmission, and the diffs. So we're not going to waste a whole lot of time, we're just going to dig right into it. First things first, I'm going to pull the body off. Start with the back ones. Take all these caps off first. Alright, so we're going to start on the front portals, just because that happens to be what's here. So after the video unboxing and review video I did last night, looking at it a little bit more, and actually now that I have this wheel coming off, you can actually see these actually have a metal ring on the inside and the outside of these, and it's just a plastic center. The more I kind of mess around and feel these tires, I actually really like them. We'll obviously see how they do once they get on the rocks, but you know, on the bench they seem pretty nice. Bear with me, guys. I'm going to try and get through this video as quickly as possible so I can get out running this thing, testing it out. Alright. Oh, nope, that's a little guy. It looks like 1.5 millimeter screws are what's going to be needed. There's actually metal, the metal hexes behind the wheels instead of the standard plastic ones on most vehicles. So that's awesome to see. The only thing downside about these being metal is that, like for instance on the 10.2, they actually snap onto the pin, so it holds the pin in there, whereas these ones just come off real free and easy. They don't really lock in there too well because it's metal, so there's no pressure fit in there. But nonetheless, nice to see the metal continuing in this thing. So I'll try and do this so you guys can see me real quick here. So if you guys happen to have a Gen 8, please down in the comments let me know once you opened up your portals or your diffs or whatever. Let me know how yours were. I'm interested to see. I've seen a lot of reports of people saying that theirs was fine. I've had a lot of people saying that there was like it was bone dry, and then I've seen some where where it was like there was some in there but not much. So I'm interested to see how your guys' all came. Alright, here we go. Here's the first one. And we look to be about bone dry. Almost, yeah, nothing. I'm calling that bone dry. There's pretty much nothing. I mean, look how clean in the diff case or the portal cover it is. I mean, I got no grease or nothing on my hands. So looks like I might be one of the guys who got one that have no grease, which, you know what, it does kind of suck that you spend the money on the truck and then you have to immediately start tearing it apart. However, for someone like me who typically buys nothing but RTRs, someone like me who typically buys nothing but kits and puts them together themselves, it's not that big of a deal. Everyone who, you know, does this hobby, gets real deep into this hobby or been into this hobby for a long time, everyone has their own preferred grease for their gears anyway. Like for instance, if you watch my channel, you know I like to play in the water, so I like to have a good, quality waterproof grease, or in there. So for me, honestly, it's not the end of the world that these aren't greased. I actually talked to Anthony over there at XXX RC Garage, and I already told him, I was like, you know what, honestly, on some level, I hope that mine comes in bone dry, for the sheer fact of I don't have to clean them to put in the grease that I want to put in. So I'm not overly heartbroken about it. Now this one, if you look in this back one here, this one actually has a little bit of grease in. Not much, but a tiny amount. You can actually see here that this one does have some grease in it. Not a whole lot. You can see a little bit of grease there in the corner, but still not what it should be. But again, like I was saying, I'm okay with it for the sheer fact of I don't have to clean them to put the grease I want to put in. The grease that I was using this marine grease that I got from the auto store. However, they changed the formula in it or something recently, and now it's just like god awful thick. Like, it's so thick, and I feel like it puts way too much stress, like resistance on my gears. So I've actually switched it up and started using Traxxas marine grease, and I'll show you a tube of that here in a second. I'm not going to grease all these up on camera. I'm just going to tear everything apart, grease it off camera. I mean, if you have a question on how to grease or how much grease, drop a comment down below. But really, you don't need much. Maybe I'll do one, so that you guys can see how much I put in mine, but you don't need much, just so that the gears are lubed, basically. This one has a little bit more, so it seems every one that I take off seems to have a little bit. I'm trying to do it without getting the pin out. There we go. That one has a little bit more, tiny little bit more, not much. Seems like as I go, every portal seems to get a little bit more, has a little bit more grease in it, but still not an acceptable amount to be running this thing. So other than the fact that my portals don't have grease in them, everything I've looked over this truck a couple more times since I made the review video on it last night, or this morning it got posted rather, but every time I look at it, I find something new that I like. I haven't found anything on this thing that I'm just like, oh god, this thing is terrible, or I hate it, or why would they do that. So far, everything I've found I like, and it's just little odds and ends. Like, I'll show you some of the stuff, but up here at the shocks, where the shocks come into the towers, or the links go into the body, there's spacers in there so that the shocks aren't rubbing up against the frame, but they're metal spacers. They're not a typical plastic spacer, which is nice to see. Alright, here's the final portal, and bone dry. Not a single piece of grease in that. Alright, let's open up, let's go to the rear diff. See what the rear diff looks like. What I do like, and I didn't really notice it until right now, all the screws for the diffs and the portal covers are all the same. They look to be all the same length. They're all the same diameter, all same type of screw head on them. So it's nice because you can just throw them all in a big pile, and then when you go to put them back together, just pick one out of the pile, toss it in, move on. You don't have to worry about separating all your screws and having a bunch of little piles of screws everywhere, and if they get mixed up or anything like that. So I definitely appreciate that. So just another little thing I found that I enjoy about this truck, and I haven't even gotten to run it yet. Oh, got one more screw. Oh man, definitely greased up in there. Yeah. Oh, you can see all that coloration right there. That's all all grease. Yeah, plenty of grease in there. I don't know, I'll probably just let it in there for the first couple runs, and I'll worry about cleaning it out later and putting in my preferred grease. I gotta undo a steering link here. Oh. One thing too about these steering links that I didn't mention in the review video, which again is a nice little feature, is if you look, they actually are adjustable, or at least this one. This one is adjustable. The main steering link is adjustable for your toe in or toe out, however you prefer to set up your truck. So that is something that I haven't really seen on any good ready to go comp truck or crawler truck, is it actually, you can actually adjust your toe in and toe out. So they've done a lot of little things like that that you really don't think about until it's there, and now that it's here, it's like, oh man, that's amazing. Why haven't other companies done that? So, like I said, now that I finally got my hands on one of these things, I definitely see why this thing is creating such a buzz and such a splash in the RC crawler community. But as all things, we will see as time goes on how well it holds up. And I don't know, I think I mentioned it in the review video. If I didn't, if you have access to a 3D printer, definitely make sure you hop on over to Thingiverse and check out Redcat's profile. They actually have a profile on there, and they've been designing a bunch of parts and putting on their Thingiverse profile where you can download the files for free and print your own pieces for this. All kinds of different stuff. And they also have a bunch of stuff on there for the Everest as well. Yep, plenty of grease in that too. So it looks like they did a pretty good job of greasing the spools in the diffs. Just not a great job of greasing the portal axles themselves. And last thing we're going to do is, I think we are going to rip out this battery tray. I don't know if I'm actually going to rip apart the transmission right now in this, or the transfer case in this video. I probably won't. We're already tracking on a little over around 13 minutes in this video. I don't want to make this video a super long one. And a friend of mine watched the review video this morning, and he called me out. One thing I didn't review on this truck last night was the radio, and I think it's because I had already planned on swapping it out and using my Spectrum radio, so I didn't really cover that. Just kind of forgot about it, honestly. So I'm gonna grab that real quick here too, and just give you guys a quick view at the radio if you haven't seen it. So what we were talking about last night or this morning in the review video is the divorce transfer case. So you got your transmission up here, and then your transfer case is down here. In theory, it should work better because it's going to deliver more equal torque to the front and rear, more power equally. But again, that's just another piece that could potentially be a failure point. But again, as everything else, time will tell. One cool thing to note too about this, if you go to swap or you want to take your ESC or your motor out, anything like that, they actually have the receiver box plugs right into here like that, and it has little extension wires that go into the receiver. So I didn't point that out last night either. So let me grab this radio. here's the radio. It's just a typical Redcat radio, not a whole lot to it. So basic, has you lift up this cover here, and that's where your on-off switch and your basic trim settings are all in there. Not a whole lot to it, not a very fancy radio at all. But alright guys, that's it. Oh yeah, here's my Traxxas grease I was telling you guys about. It's just Traxxas marine grease. It's part number 5748. So that's it. Again guys, as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one.